Hi, Comp2. In hopes of helping you along in your group presentations over the weekend, I wanted to send you a link to this video and a sample handout just to give you some guidelines to work with. So the sample handout lays out what the textbook says the biographical critical lens is and gives the examples that the textbook gives. And then I go into saying, put a different way, this is what this means. I try to kind of condense all of what that textbook says down into one piece of information, maybe one takeaway bit. Then I chose to move on to apply it to Jill McCorkle, to give some biographical information on her. And then to say, if we were to do biographical criticism of Jill McCorkle, here's how we would do it. Then the movie that I chose to apply it to was Garden State. And I walked through Zach Braff being the lead actor and the director, making a lot of decisions about where the film was going to be shot, how long it was going to take, what the parameters of the film were going to be, and basing a lot of that on his own life. And I go through and say, he chose to film the movie in his hometown. He chose to depict the character based on his own experiences as a young actor who was struggling and dealing with depression. And then I say, though there were certain things that weren't 100% relevant to his life, like his relationship, this isn't based on one single relationship he had, that's kind of a conglomeration of a lot, that all of that comes together for him in the film. He pulls from his background to build this story, rather than saying, well, this is exactly what happened to me. This is what I'm going to try and put on film. He just kind of pulls different elements and uses them as inspiration. And so we can read the story differently that way, knowing that Zach Braff was pulling from his own experiences. Then at the very bottom, you have a works cited page, or I should say a works cited section. And, it's got 3 sources, one of which is the textbook. You're only required to use 2, but I needed 3 to get some of these things across, so I went a little bit over. You're not required to do that. Now, I will say that the way that I found these sources was that I started with Wikipedia, like I told you to do in class. You'll notice I did not cite Wikipedia. This is not Wikipedia information. I started with Wikipedia to get myself grounded in the topic, and then I went to other sources that Wikipedia referenced and used those sources themselves to build this information. So if I were to give this presentation in class, I would stand up and say, my lens was the biographical lens. I would give a definition of it, walk through some examples from the textbook. Then I would go into saying, here's another way to say this. If you want just the takeaway bit of information, if you want like a sound bite, a snippet that you can write down and remember, here it is. Then I would tie it, just like the text, or just like my handout does, I'd tie it to the Jill McCorkle reading that we've been doing and walk through Jill McCorkle's background, some pieces of information about her, and then walk through how we might read maybe a story or two about in this way. Or look at several stories and their settings, look at their Southern Gothic influences, and say, knowing what we know about Jill McCorkle, that she has spent the majority of her life in North Carolina, we can kind of see this as biographical influence in her work. And then I would go into talking about Garden State. And the reason that I'm asking you guys to tie this to a movie is because I want you to be able to tie it to something that people in the classroom have likely seen and identified with. Now, Garden State is a little bit more from my generation, so you guys might not have seen it, but pick something that you think people in the room will have seen. Whether it's silly or really scary or even kind of a cult classic, whatever you think those people in the classroom will be able to identify with, feel free to use that. And we can show clips if you want to. We can show the trailer to the movie if you want to. Or your group can just opt to maybe show the movie poster or talk through a certain part of the movie or through the movie's plot. Right. So then I would go through and tell you guys, either show you the trailer to the movie or walk you through the plot of Garden State and explain. Zach Braff plays Andrew Largeman, who is the main character. He also directs the movie and builds the movie off of his own life, and go through his biographical influences in the film. So those are the things that this presentation should include. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to contact me over the weekend. These can be questions about, I'm just totally confused. I don't know what we're supposed to be doing, all the way to we're thinking about doing a poster board where are we going to be able to display it in the classroom, right? Anything like that, anything that you want to do, make this as creative as you want to, make it as engaging as you can, and please keep in touch with me if you do have any questions.